We're starting our prospect check-in series by going back to that old 2020 draft.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL's Tuesdays episodes with Seth. Go check it out. Want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, we're going to be starting our kind of annual holiday-ish prospect check-in. We're going to be looking at the 2020 draft class, looking at Shakir Mukhamadullin, Thomas Bordeleau, guys who are ready to kind of make an impact now. Checking out guys like Tristen Robins, Gushchin, Jack Thompson, and kind of the rest of the class to see where it is at and kind of what still needs to be done with this class, and maybe a little bit of what's the future for some of these guys. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that, of course, the college football playoff is here. You don't want to miss a moment of the action. College football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. So, any longtime listener of Locked On Sharks knows, usually around this time of year, the holiday season, I like to kind of do a bit of a prospect check-in. And usually I found that I've tried to cram them all into like one show, and I don't get enough time to kind of talk about the guys. So this time we're going to spread it out over 3 or 4 shows, kind of over the next couple weeks here, of checking in on some of these guys from these recent draft classes. And I thought you got to start with the 2020 draft class, because this draft class kind of felt like at least the beginning of the foundation for this next iteration of the Sharks. And of course, some of the people that the Sharks drafted are no longer with the organization. You look at guys like Ozzy Weisblatt, Alex Young, et cetera, et cetera. There's a few guys who either traded away, never signed, right? But you also added some players from this 2020 draft class, including Shakir Mukhamadullin and Jack Thompson. And might be an argument to make that a draft where the Sharks drafted no defensemen, the two defensemen might be the best players from this class. So we're going to go in order of these picks and just kind of talk about, what these players are up to this year and kind of what's next for them for the rest of the season, and all that. So we have to start in draft order with one Shakir Mukhamadullin. So Mukhamadullin this season with the Barracuda. Again, he missed the first kind of month of the season due to injury. He's played 14 games and with the Barracuda, 0 goals, 6 assists, 16 shots on goal. Recently was called up to the Sharks. In that time, he has 2 games, 0 goals, 0 assists, 2 shots on goal, playing 14-18 time on ice. Corsi for or shot attempts, 52.08%, and 100% goals. He's been on the ice for 1 goal, has not given up any. I think that's good. Again, tiny sample size with Shakir Mukhamadullin, because he's played 2 games for him. But coming off of last year, right? I know Mukhamadullin kind of dealt with some injuries at the end of the season, but it very much felt like Mukhamadullin's just pencil him into the opening night roster, right? Especially with the investment the Sharks have made in him and kind of the expectations when you trade Timo Meier. He is supposed to be a big piece of your future, and between him, Fabian Zetterlund, and Quint Musty, those are the 3 big pieces to your future. And Shakir Mukhamadullin, great season last year with the Barracuda, got a little bit of time with the Sharks, but of course, dealing with the injury. Shang Peng reported that it was turned out to be a groin injury, which explains a big reason why his skating looked off and maybe he didn't trust himself at first, because that is one, it's a painful injury. Two, it's a very mental injury of like trying to push yourself back to where you were without kind of getting that fear of, am I going to re-hurt it and have to basically start back at zero? And that's what happened. Is he began in the training camp, he re-injured it and had to kind of start back at zero. And I think so. Mukhamadullin has definitely been playing much better before he got the call up. And you could see, I think he was really getting over that mental injury, kind of the mental aspect of his injury, and starting to kind of show flashes of himself. Again, super small sample size with the Sharks, but you got to really like what you're seeing from him out there. And I know it's very sheltered. He's only playing, 15 minutes or whatever, but like, you can see why the Sharks think so highly of him and what his skill set could be. And I think especially now with some of the Sharks draftees and who projects to kind of maybe leapfrog him, you look at like Sam Dickinson, if Luca Cagnoni continues his progression. If Mukhamadulin's your like third or fourth defenseman, you're probably feeling really good about where you're at. And that's fine. And I think Mukhamadullin also has a lot of offense that we haven't really seen this year, and hopefully he'll be able to kind of untap that. We saw a lot of it last year, but his defensive game has gotten so much better, and he's gotten much stronger. His ability to kind of play defense and read, that part of his game, I think, has gotten much, much better since when he first got here, and his decision making with that has also improved a ton since he first arrived over in North America kind of full time. So really excited about Mukhamadullin, where he's headed, and I think the Sharks are hopefully, fingers crossed here, hopefully going to give him a long look in with the NHL, because I think that's kind of the next thing for him, especially with how impacted the Barracuda defenses right now. I would rather Mukhamadullin play NHL minutes now and start getting used to being an NHL defenseman. So gotta feel pretty good about where Mukhamadullin's headed. Another guy who I feel like should be feeling pretty good about where he's headed right now is Thomas Bordeleau. So Bordeleau kind of in the same boat as Mukhamadullin, where he missed basically all of training camp because of an injury. Also rounding into form with the Barracuda. He's played 19 games with the Barracuda, has 6 goals, 9 assists for 40 and 46 shots on goal. He, again, the past couple games here in the past kind of week or two, I think Bordeleau is really starting to find his game. It was a little sloppy early in the season. I think that's also kind of jumping into a team when you're injured and stuff. But I mean, Bordeleau's playing top 6 minutes for the Barracuda. He's never going to be like a penalty kill type of guy, which is fine. Like, that's fine. I think the Sharks have plenty of penalty kill type of guys either in the system now or, guys who project to be penalty kill guys, Beasted, Bordeleau, etc. Or not, Beasted, Cardwell. They have plenty of guys who can play the penalty kill. I'm not worried about that. But I do think Bordeleau you're seeing him getting stronger in his own end, being more competitive along board battles, like all those little things, trying, just kind of more effort, which I think has always kind of been his bugaboo. Is we've seen plenty of the offensive stuff, but you never really kind of see enough of the defensive things that's, I believe, kind of what has always been holding him back from being like an everyday NHL player. I think you're starting to see him. I think it's starting to click for him. Like, I have to do these things to be a full-time NHL player. And I think he's playing really well with the Barracuda right now. And I think he's going to be kind of, if there's another injury type of or trade type of situation with the Sharks, I think he's going to be the next call up for the forwards, because I think he's gotten pretty close to kind of earning that call up right now. And if Bordeleau can continue to be show his goal scoring prowess, which the Sharks team could always use more goal scorers right now, especially offense still struggles from time to time. But Bordeleau could be an asset on the power play, even if he's playing power play 2 minutes right now on the Sharks team. I think Bordeleau. I know it's been a bit of a journey for Bordeleau, but I think he's getting close to kind of cracking and being that lineup and being a full-time NHLer and kind of this AHL NHL tweener, which is right now, where he's clearly very good in the AHL, but maybe not quite there for an NHL player. I think we're getting to that point where you're going to have to kind of let him figure things out here in the NHL sooner rather than later. So we'll continue to talk about some of the other guys from the 2020 draft. We're going to talk about Tristen Robins and Danil Gushchin and kind of what's up with these guys who've also had especially a guy like Robins, who's had a bit of some ups and downs here. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, you can even earn points on rent payments, just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program. The possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so that they know that we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. You can find your right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. If you're in good health, they work with carriers that can get you some same-day coverage for up to $5 million, no medical exam required. Head over to selectquote.com and get a licensed insurance agent that will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less, or selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. All right, let's continue talking about this 2020 draft class, and we got to go with next in line one, Tristen Robins. Robins this year has played 14 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 21 shots on goal for Tristen Robins. And Robins is a very curious case because last year he missed a big chunk of the season due to an injury. This year he comes in and he looks pretty strong, and then kind of been dealing with a little bit of injury bug and hasn't been able to kind of stay in the lineup night in and night out, and has been playing third or fourth line center minutes, which is fine. And if you think about Bordeleau, or kind of where Robins now projects with the Sharks, is he's probably going to be one of those third or fourth line type of players because, you Celebrini, Smith, Beasted, kind of at least down the middle there. Cardwell, there's a bunch of these guys that kind of have passed Tristen Robins, and you feel bad because of the injury last year really, I think, kind of took the wind out of his sails, especially a guy who, the year before, made his NHL debut. And then it's really his development, I think, is kind of plateaued. And even watching the game on Sunday where Tristen Robins is fighting dudes, and I didn't really kind of picture that as his path, right? So yeah, it's a little, I don't know. I'm just it's hard to like I'm trying to like come up. I don't want to say it's disappointing, but I think maybe you're kind of hoping for a little bit more for Robins. And I mean, also, you look at the Barracuda, right? Like, what's the path to him playing top 6 minutes? It's a little tough to crack that lineup, right? Look at the first lineup, right? Gushchin, we're going to talk about here in a second. You have Colin Graff, you have Podorowski, you got Bordeleau, you got Beasted, and then usually a guy like Bailey. Like, those guys are all either, highly touted guys, great veterans, in Podorowski and Bailey. Like, those are guys who have been playing a lot of AHL games, or veteran guys who, kind of proven their worth. Or you guys, guys like Gushchin, who can score a ton. Bordeleau has been scoring a ton. Colin Graff, who's had a great season. Beasted, who they want to continue to like play top 6 minutes in his development. Former first round pick. It's just it feels like Robins has kind of gotten a little left behind here, and so I'm curious to see what his future looks like. And it doesn't mean like if for a lot of these guys here that we're going to talk about coming up, like it doesn't mean just like cut bait on him, because the Sharks, like good teams and good program, like good franchises, they have depth. And having a guy like Robins who can play, I think can still play top 6 minutes, especially if, Bordeleau gets pulled, like if Bordeleau gets called up, or Bisa gets called up, or like any of these guys get called up, somebody gets traded. Like having a guy like Robins who can play bottom 6 minutes for you, and then also maybe if given a chance can play up in the lineup as well. I still think like having those type of guys around are very valuable, because we've seen over the past couple seasons what happens when you just have nobody in your kind of prospect pool in your AHL system that is really worth developing. It just makes it harder. And then when you do have those issues up top, it just makes life a lot harder. I think a guy like Robins, if he kind of maxes out as a like Andrew Podorowski type, or maybe he's just like a really high-end AHL player, that's still a solid pick. Like, that's still a good pick. And if he helps your younger players continue to develop, if he just kind of provides a stability, and like, that's totally fine. So another guy who's had some opportunities, but I think is maybe would like to do a little bit more with said opportunities, one Danil Gushchin. So Gushchin this season with the Barracudas played 15 games, had 5 goals, 4 assists, 66 shots on goal. Also with the Sharks this year, played 10 games, 0 goals, 1 assist, 13 shots on goal, 12:07 average time on ice, 45.81 Corsi for, 37.50 goals for. Gushchin is like, again, he's kind of in that Bordeleau AHL NHL tweener, right? Where clearly he's very good in the AHL. We've seen it. We've seen him do a lot of great things. We see the scoring touch. He's playing huge minutes for the Barracuda. He's a big part of that team, right? You look at shootouts. He's the first guy out there with a shootout. It's him and Podorowski, or you like usually your first 2 guys with the shootouts. Like, top power play, like Gushchin is a huge part, but every time he gets a chance in the NHL non-preseason, he just doesn't continue that effort. And maybe he's a guy who just needs a little bit of time to warm up when he comes. And you even saw it, right? Getting back into the AHL took him a little bit of time, but he's starting to kind of play more consistently right now. He's a guy where, again, like, I know he's, going to be new contract and everything, like most of these guys here at the end of the season, but still, he's a guy I want to have in my system, because again, I still think he has middle 6 potential in San Jose in the NHL, and maybe don't play him on the 4th line, Ryan Warsofsky, but I would like to see what happens with Gushchin once he kind of finds his groove. And I think that's the problem is it takes him a little bit to kind of get going when he gets into a new place. And I want to see what happens when he's maybe earns a little bit more of that leash and earns his opportunity to kind of get going, because when he's on the ice in the NHL, he typically you see positive things from him. And I think he's one of those guys right now. If you're not scoring points for me, what else can you do? And I don't know if there's a lot of the what else can you do for me right now with Gushchin, which is fine. Like Danil Gushchin is a scorer. He has a wicked shot. Like he can score goals. He can score goals in the NHL. He just hasn't been able to do it consistently yet right now. And he'll get his chance. He'll get another opportunity here at some point. So I know it's frustrating beginning the season with him, where he was either given an opportunity, didn't really do much with it, or put in a kind of a tough spot by playing like third or fourth line minutes. But I still believe in Gushchin. I still believe there's a path for Gushchin to have a solid career in the NHL. So we'll talk about some other guys here, including Jack Thompson, and kind of what his path is. We'll talk about Brandon Coe and get kind of a nice little tie up on what could potentially happen here with some of these 2020 draft guys. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you get the hunch in the middle of a game, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. If you had the over in the Bills-Lions game, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself right now, because there was a lot of points in that game. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, before we continue, of course, I do have to let you guys know about Locked On Fantasy Hockey. If your fantasy hockey team needs some help, check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. They'll help you with who to target in trades, who to add, who to drop, who to start every night, all that great stuff. You can, of course, find that wherever you find this podcast, or you can watch on YouTube as well. Or Fantasy Hockey isn't your thing, check out one of the other shows here in the Bay Area. Locked On Niners, Locked On Warriors, Locked On A's, Locked On Giants. Plenty of great stuff here at the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. All right, let's finish up the 2020 draft class. We're going to be talking about one Jack Thompson right now, who the Sharks acquired last season, part of the Anthony Duclair trade. Jack Thompson has only played 3 games for the Barracuda because he's spent most of the season with the Sharks. In his 3 games, 0 goals, 2 assists, 5 shots on goal. With the Sharks, 14 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 17 shots on goal, played 16:03 average time on ice, Corsi for 46.94, goals for 23:08. Thompson, like it's kind of a running theme with these guys of that AHL, NHL tweener, which you would kind of expect for, this draft class right now, is guys trying to make that breakthrough of being full-time NHL players. And it feels like a bit of a logjam right now with the Sharks defense, especially because you have like Ruda and CC and Ferraro and some of these guys who may or may not be here at the end of the season. And you have guys like Mukhamadullin and Thrun and Thompson who need to be playing NHL minutes right now. But right, you're kind of, there's a lot of people, there's not enough spots right now up top for kind of some of these young defensemen. So, and I think for Thompson, it's probably best for him to just play AHL games right now instead of being constantly press boxed. For a guy who's basically spent the entire season with San Jose, only playing 14 games, and we're 30 games in the season. That's not what you want to see. You want to see him continue to play, and I think playing on a really good Barracuda team right now, where he's going to be playing. He's been kind of paired with Lucas Carlson. that's fine. Like let him go run amok in the AHL with the Barracuda right now. So I still really love Thompson's game. I think he's going to be a really solid, like, again, 5th, 6th type of defenseman, maybe your 4th. That's Mukhamadullin and Thompson combo. Like, let's ride there, because I think I really love Thompson's puck moving ability. I think he can quarterback a power play. Still makes the occasional tough decision. You saw that even in the Barracuda game. That could also be a little bit of a rust of him just not playing. But I still really like Thompson. I think he's got a path to be an NHL player. So next is Brandon Coe. Coe, 4th round pick, of course, in the 2020 draft. He's played 14 games with the Barracuda, 1 goal, 5 assists, 8 shots on goal. He has not played since the beginning or since the end of November, been dealing with an injury. And Coe is a guy where you've been kind of waiting for him to put things together, and he puts things together in little stretches, but it's just not consistent enough. And kind of like Tristan Robins, where you see flashes of it. And especially for a guy who's, like Coe, 6'4", 190 pounds, or 6'3", he's a big boy. You would like to kind of see his game be a little bit more physical, but it's just not there. And like maybe a guy who spends a little bit more time kind of working, like kind of that grindy in front of the paint type of play, and you just really don't see it. He's kind of more of a perimeter player, and you see flashes of excellence and brilliance, but then you see he's a healthy scratch, or he gets and that, I think that's the frustrating part, where it's because you see it, like you do see these moments of him just be like, oh wow, like that was a great shift and that was a great play, and like the way he can read plays and create and score, you see that, but it's just not there all the time. And I think that's a frustrating part with Brandon Coe, because he has the toolbox, like he has all the tools, but he just hasn't all come together for him right now. So and then finally, in the 2020 draft class of guys who are still here, Timofey Spitzeroff, 7th round pick. Still, he's a senior at the University of Vermont. He's played 15 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, but 25 shots on goal. I haven't watched Spitzeroff in a while, but the games I have watched of Spitzeroff, I would be really surprised if the Sharks sign him to an ELC after his season is over with NCAA. I could see him heading back to Europe or Russia to play, have a full career, kind of pro career there, but I just don't see it. I think there's other places to kind of invest your time in your development. So we'll finish off here by kind of with this 2020 draft classes. A lot of these guys are going to be, their ELCs are going to be expiring. You're going to need new contracts. And again, like for most of these guys, like keeping these guys around, that's fine. Like letting them continue to grow and develop, and having depth in your organization is good. But you wonder if some of these guys are going to be used for trade chips, right? And especially for a Sharks prospect pool, especially the forward group, there's a lot of names, just from this 2020 draft class, right? You have Bordeleau, you have Robins, you have Gushchin, who are all, to some degree or another pushing to be NHL players. I would say, like right now, it's probably Bordeleau, Gushchin, Robins in that order. Right now, check back in a couple weeks, but then you got the 2021 draft class with like Beasted coming, and you got some guys who are in college who are going to be, probably going to be looking to push here soon. The Sharks are going to have to make some decisions, and whether it's maybe you package some of these guys when you make a trade, maybe like an Ozzy Weisbot type of thing, where new scenario or kind of a new refresh and put them in a new situation and see if they can kind of flourish there. But it's getting late for some of these guys to kind of be who we thought they were going to be. And I know there's a lot of excitement around this 2020 draft class. I was very excited about it as well, but development's a weird thing, and that 2020 draft was a weird draft with COVID and guys who didn't get to play as much, and there's a lot of stuff that went into that draft, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially as Mike Grier is gonna start to ramp things up here with this team and trying to add quality pieces around your young players like Smith and Celebrini and Eklund and some of these other guys. And if you want to maybe go get a right-handed defenseman or whatever you want to do, if you're going to have to start parting ways with some of these guys here, and just, again, I'm not saying go out and trade Bordeleau and Gushchin and Robins and all these guys to make, go do something just to do something, but teams want something. They don't want your garbage, and those guys still have value in an organization. Again, if a guy like Bordeleau is your top kind of AHL guy who can come up and play NHL games when you need him to do, that still has value to teams. And same thing with Gushchin, where a guy who can score, maybe he's never gonna be win the Selke or anything like that, but guys who can score, put him on your power play, give him an opportunity and see what can happen. Those guys still have value in organizations. So whether it's the Sharks or somebody else's organization, we'll find out. But the clock's kind of starting to tick for this 2020 draft class and when these guys are going to kind of pop. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the Sharks Jets game. So make sure you guys are following wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.